Chris, a nice warm South African welcome for the French president.
Indeed, a very nice and warm welcome for France's President Francois Hollande, who has just kicked off the official state visit here in Pretoria. We're at the Union buildings where the official pomp and ceremony has just concluded. President Francois Hollande was presented with a 21-gun salute by the South African National Defence Force. This was followed by greetings between the South African delegation and the French delegation. Currently, right behind me, talks are underway between President Jacob Zuma and Francois Hollande. This will be followed by a press conference where we'll be able to engage, hopefully, with President Jacob Zuma and indeed French President Francois Hollande.
Chris, what are the main issues on the table as these leaders get together this morning?
I think the big issue on the table is the trade relations between South Africa and France. South Africa describing the relationship between France and South Africa as a strategic partnership. Now, the interesting thing about it is that trade relations between South Africa and France are at a very good level. Currently, it's described that the balance of trade between France and South Africa stands at somewhere around just under 30 billion rand, and this is in favor of France in terms of the balance of trade. South Africa will be looking to enhance this relationship and ensure that South Africa can leverage off this good trade relationship to ensure that South African products find their way into France. Currently, we understand that around 300 French companies do trade here in South Africa, and that is mainly in the aerospace, defense, agriculture, and allied industries. And certainly both presidents who will be bringing out a big business delegation will be keen to enhance that trade relationship. Later on today in Sandton at the convention center there will be trade talks between the business delegation and their South African counterparts to see how best to improve that. But Joanne, one of the other key aspects of this engagement will be looking at the peace and security relationships between France and South Africa. France has a very strong footprint here, and South Africa will be keen to see how they can begin to cooperate more in a relationship that has been described as highly complex at times.
Chris, just talk us through some of those diplomatic spats in the last few years that have complicated this relationship.
Well, I think one of the sort of events that have highlighted the difficulty in this relationship has been the intervention under the auspices of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, in Libya, following a United Nations resolution, that was Resolution 1973, that authorized war or combat operations in that country. South Africa voted in favor of Resolution 1973 initially, indicating that they didn't quite agree with the manner in which it was implemented, with France in the lead, leading military operations under the auspices of NATO. South Africa preferred to implement what was described as an African Union roadmap, and this brought the two countries at odds. But this is not the only incident. Again, an intervention by France in Cote d'Ivoire following a protracted civil war there saw South Africa and indeed Africa playing catch-up yet again to France. Most recently, France has intervened in Mali to try and stabilize the situation there following an insurgency. And certainly the interesting thing about it is that after the entrance of Francois Hollande into office there, he did contact President Jacob Zuma requesting some kind of approval for France's intervention in that country. But there have been several incidences on the African continent where France seemingly has been at odds with South Africa, particularly due to France's strong and historic links with Francophone-speaking Africa.
Well, what is the interest in South Africa, given France's historical ties with other Francophone countries?
I think France is very keen to dispel the perception of France as somewhat of the policeman of Africa, intervening in peace and security relations, often intervening to support regimes on the African continent that have been described as autocratic or dictatorial. The engagement with South Africa, which is an Anglophone-speaking country, really is trying to break this mold, enhance trade relations with South Africa, but more importantly, position South Africa as a key partner, particularly in relation to these peace and security issues. We also saw these peace and security issues coming to the fore around South Africa's pushing or support of the candidature of Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma as the chairperson of the African Union. And she was running against Jean Ping, who is from a Francophone-speaking country. And this was seen as bringing France and South Africa into direct opposition. I think currently what the two presidents and indeed the two governments will be trying to do is ease these relations and develop greater partnerships.
Chris Maroleng, thanks very much for that update from the Union Buildings. We'll touch base with you in just a short while.
News that moves. ENCA.com.